Hi and welcome to Coffee with My Sunshine. Today we are going to be creating these gorgeous dupes that anyone can make for their home or for giving as Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. For this DIY number one, I'm going to show you the really pretty inspiration piece from Ballard Design, but this blanket was a little bit more than I wanted to spend. For this one, for this project, we are going to need some fabric. It can be fabric that you get at the thrift store or Joann Fabrics. Mine is from Joann Fabrics. I just thought that was really pretty. It could go from, you know, fall to winter, Christmas, whatever. This one I thought was pretty too. I'll insert a picture here so that you can see what kind I got, and I'll put how much I used in the description box and everything. But we are going to make fringed throws, and they are great for gifts. Actually, this one is going to be for my daughter since she just got her own apartment, and then you know, this one will be for here for Christmas. So I'll show you the process in a second. I just wanted to show you, I think it was 40% off. So I got 1 3/4 yard of fabric. So with the sale price, it came out to $10.48 for each of them. And then she just gave me, for the green one, the remainder that was on the bolt. So it was a little bit more. But $10.48 for each blanket isn't bad, especially when you're trying to give a bunch of gifts or keep it for yourself. Okay, so when you get your fabric, there's going to be 2 selvaged edges, and they will run the longer length of your fabric. So you're going to want to leave those. Mine on this kind was fringed already, but it's not going anywhere. It's already, you know, it's not going to fringe anymore. The shorter edges, which are going to be the top and the bottom of the blanket, those are not finished. So that's what we're going to be sewing and fringing ourselves. So you want to, if they're not cut straight already, cut them straight across. Now this one, the green one, was the same way. The selvaged edges are a little bit frayed, which I think will go great with the rest of the blanket. So here I am just starting the stitch. I did a back stitch to start with, and I left about, I think it was 1 1/4 inches for the fringe. You can make it longer, but according to the tutorial that I read, it said that the longer it is, the more tangled it gets if you wash it. So this is what mine looks like. I ended up doing a smaller stitch, like a shorter length stitch, just because I didn't want the fringe to go past where we just stitched. But after you do that, you're going to want to do a little cut at each end towards the selvaged edge, and that's just going to allow it to fringe a little bit easier once you wash it. If you just do a little starting point, and you don't want to go past where we stitched either because, you know, that will just make it fray all the way down the blanket. But this is kind of how easy it is once you get started. You'll see here in a second. But you want to do both ends, the top and the bottom of the blanket. So this side I ended up doing a shorter length, like stitch, because I don't want, you know, the fringe to pull past where you stitched it. So now, because I don't know if it's all of this brand of fabric, but it stinks. So I'm going to throw it in the wash, and that should help start the fraying process, even though it's starting on its own. But it should help a little bit. So now I'm starting on the green one. I have the other one in the wash, actually in the dryer now. But I'm going to do the same thing for my green one. Again, on this one, I just started so that it's a little bit easier to fray. And then you do the same thing on the other side. And then on the other side of the blanket. Okay, so our blanket is washed. And like I said, the washing process helps the fraying start. So you can see over here where it started on its own in the wash. So you just want to kind of take those and start pulling. Sorry, it's hard to film and pull at the same time. Kind of like that. So you get it. I can't do it with one hand, but basically you just want it to fray. You want it to fray all the way to where you stitched it, right? I don't know if you can see it. Right there. So this whole thing is going to be frayed when you're done. And it's a perfect project to work on while you're watching TV. And then because a lot of you always ask about my cat and my dog, I thought I would show you. They're usually right at my feet. My cat was just waiting, I think, for a piece of string. And my dog, I'm not really sure what she was doing here. She was just, I don't know, she seemed really excited. I don't know if she wanted me to get down on the floor with her, but I thought I'd show you because a bunch of you always ask about her. And she's doing really, really well on her 3 legs. So she seems happy and healthy, as you can see. So then I got back to fraying the edges of the blanket. It's easier, like I tried cutting, as you can see here, to do shorter lengths, but it was easier to me once I got in the groove to start fraying. Like I would start in the middle and find a piece of thread, pull it from both ends. That way it wasn't snapping like really short, but it doesn't matter. Just fray it however is easier for you. And this is what they look like all finished. Let me know what you guys think. And I think it was awesome because these colors actually went with the Christmas pillows that I made a couple videos ago. I will link those above if you're interested. And DIY number 2. Here is my inspiration I found on Wayfair. I thought the plant stand was a little bit too much, so I thought we could create a really cool dupe. This is the wood round I'm going to use. It's in this video, how I originally made it onto this Home Depot bucket. But I went to Home Depot. They didn't have the size I wanted, but they have them all over the place. At Lowe's, depending on the size you want, you know, they vary in prices. This is a really nice one. Like Lowe's, Home Depot, Hobby Lobby carries them in different sizes. This one's a pretty expensive one, but depending on the size, you can get them cheaper. You're also going to need some T-plates. I found these at our local hardware store, and I call this a dowel rod, but it's like a wood pole. I got it from Joann Fabrics it was very inexpensive, like $2.99. Okay, so I'm just taking my dowel rod from Joann Fabrics, and I'm just going to, hold on, I'm going to scoot you over. I'm just going to draw a straight line on the top of it, and this is just for cutting purposes, so that you always know, oops, so you always know to have this facing up when you're cutting. And then I am just taking my little Stanley saw here, and I'm going to move it, because I'm going to do that legs angled, I'm going to move it over so it's at a 10-degree angle. I decided to do a 15-degree angle only because I cannot get my saw here to stay at a 10-degree angle, probably because I got it at a garage sale. That might have been why they were getting rid of it, but we're gonna see if the 15-degree angle works. So I'm just going to cut the very end of this just to get the angle, and you want to make sure your line is facing up. So I ended up having to cut a big chunk of that dowel rod off because the weight on this end was causing it to pinch on the blade, so I couldn't move it very good. So I'm going to continue my little 15-degree cut here, and then I will do the same on this side. And normally you would want to secure this onto like a work table or something, which my husband and I are going to do very soon here. And then you have your angled cut. And that's going to be what sits on the ground and makes the legs angled. So you want to do the same on this side because that's where it's going to attach to the stool top. So then I'm going to cut off about that much. I'll tell you the final measurements once I get this cut down. But again, I have my line on the top that I drew, and I'm just going to cut at that 15-degree angle. Not like that.
You could also make your poles, they don't have to be slanted, they can be just, you know, straight.
Okay, so we have our stool topper. This is the one I'm using. We have the legs that are cut on an angle. And then in a tutorial I saw that they used this, like these T-plates to attach the legs. This is probably not something you'd want to use if you're going to be putting any kind of heavy weight on here. But I'm just using mine for a plant stand, so these should work perfectly. I'm just showing you this so you can see the size that I got. Sorry about the lighting. And what the steps you're going to have to do, like drill an 1/8 inch pilot hole, where you're going to put your screws, fasten screws in the material, blah, blah, blah. So I just thought I would show you that before we get started. And you're going to have one extra when you're done, because we only did 3 legs, unless of course you did 4. And then when you place these, you want to make sure, because they, like the tutorial showed me, they're countersunk on one side and one side they're not. So you want that to be on the outside so that the screws sit flush. Also, another thing you're going to want to check, my piece, my stool piece is on the thicker side. So the screws that came with the T-plate, those are going to work fine for me because they're not too long to where they're going to poke through the top. But you want to make sure that the screws you're using, if you have a thinner stool plate or a stool topper, that it's not going to go through.
When you're pre-drilling, you want to make sure you're going in at the correct angle so that it's not all wonky when you try and attach it to the T-plate. And you want to make sure before you put the screw in that your legs are going to be all pointing out. Make sure it is nice and tight on there because you don't want your legs swiveling once they're on the stool.
And this is what I'm using. It's super simple, so much better than a regular screwdriver. You just turn it basically in the direction you want it to screw in. Okay, so I had to turn it around. So these are countersunk, as I showed you before, and you want to do opposite. You want to do it this way so that when you screw the screw into the leg, it is flush, because you don't want it sticking out because then it'll be like wobbly. So this is how you want it. And then when you get your legs in the position that you want, you can go ahead and divide your circle into 3 equal parts. Then just draw where you're going to put your screws. And then you want to go ahead and pre-drill those spots as well, and then do that all the way around.
And I will list all my tools in the description box if you're interested. So let me know if you are liking these projects so far. I'm actually having a lot of fun working with wood. I love working with scrap wood and just creating new things. So let me know. And also always let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see or that you're interested in seeing on my channel. And this is the stool all done. I think it's a really close dupe to the original inspiration piece, but let me know what you guys think. It's a little bit more rustic, obviously, because I used a rustic piece of wood. And like I said, I will link that video that when I originally created that up in the cards and also in the comment section. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. DIY number 3. This is my inspiration piece, and I thought we could make a really close dupe to these candles for a lot cheaper, but we are going to use concrete. This is the concrete I used. You're also going to need some sort of, you know, can or something that is similar to, probably a little bit bigger than the candles you're going to want to use on these candle holders. You're also going to need some sort of plastic cup or whatever shape you want your candle holders to be in. And I am just mixing up the concrete here. It's a really fine concrete that I got. If you want less rocks, you can like strain out the stones and stuff, or you can just, you know, use a different kind. I know they have crafting concrete and like plasters and stuff. I'm still playing around trying to find the best kind. I actually did this whole project with a different concrete that we already had on hand, and none of it worked out. It turned out to be just like crumbles of sand. So I'm guessing it got wet and we didn't know about it or something. I'm not sure. But I just mixed it up according to the packaging, kind of, because the packaging doesn't give you like small amounts. Like if you're doing like craft projects, no, it tells you if you're using the whole bag, use this much water. So I tried to just kind of figure it out in small batches. And then I just mixed it all up, and I want to fill these cups all the way up for one of the candles, and then I want to make it a little bit shorter for the other one because I don't want them to be the exact same height. And I forgot to show you, you'd probably want to spray some sort of oil in here before you put the concrete. The concrete actually came out of these cups really well, but if you're using like maybe a cardboard or something, you're going to want to use some kind of oil. I put oil here on a paper towel, and then I just rub the can on there, which I don't know if I would recommend using a can. It was kind of hard to get out of the concrete, but the oil is just to make it so that it's like a lubrication, so you can just pop it out of the concrete once it's dry. I just ended up filling up the can a little bit with water just to weigh it down so it stayed in the same place when it while it dried. If you have some sort of plastic or cardboard that you could use that would be the same size as the candle you're using, I would do that over the can, just because it kind of held onto the can more than I thought, and it ended up breaking, which I'll show you here in a second, but I fixed it as best I could. And as you can see here, they came out of these cups really nicely. They weren't completely dry here yet, or cured. I was just taking them out so that it cured a little bit easier without the cup around it. But I thought the pattern was kind of cool that it left. You could sand it down a little bit too, if you wanted. And I think you could use, when you use different containers, it would be really cool. Like the first ones I used Gatorade bottles, and they looked really cool. But like I said, the concrete didn't hold up. But this is what happened when I tried to get those cans out. Plus, they weren't completely cured. That was my fault. I'm very impatient, so If you can let them cure the whole time that you're supposed to, it probably wouldn't break. So I just took some of this construction adhesive. They, from what I read, suggest using the Loctite. I think it's like a super powerful construction adhesive. It's supposed to work on concrete. And I just went around the edges and attached it, which made it look more rustic, which is perfectly fine, especially because I wanted this to look a little bit more like wood. And then I'm just mixing up some paints. We're going for a wood color, like a an old weathered wood look. Probably not going to look like wood with the pattern of the cup, but whatever. This was just for fun to see if I could kind of recreate those candles and come up with a cheaper dupe. I'm probably going to play around with different molds and see what I come up with. If I come up with something really cool, I'll show you. But I just painted the base like a tan color that I mixed up and then layered on some browns, and then took this sponge, it's dry, and then did like a dry rubbing on it just to create kind of like a wood pattern. And this, I wasn't completely happy with how it turned out, but it was fun to work with. And then after you're done painting it, you're going to want to attach the two pieces for each candle holder, and I used this Loctite construction adhesive, and then you just basically squeeze it on in between each of the candles, each of the cement candle holders, and then let that dry completely, and this is what it looks like when they are all finished. Well, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for all your love and support and your sweet comments. Don't forget to stop in the comments and say hi. And if you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe and join my YouTube family. Also, give this a thumbs up if you found this interesting or gave you any kinds of inspiration. Thanks so much. I love all of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.